Hey everyone, welcome back. So today we're going to be diving deep into some advice for all you 20-somethings out there.
Should be fun.
Yeah. So we've got this YouTube video queued up. I became a millionaire at 26. Here's 13 lessons for anyone in their 20s.
Catchy title.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's from Vanessa Lau. She's this entrepreneur, built a multi-million-dollar business, hit financial freedom at 26. So,
Wow.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So she's sharing, all her wisdom, pearls of wisdom for those of us still, figuring things out.
I think what's interesting about this one is she's not just talking about money. It's, personal growth decision making, even like how aware you are of the world around you.
Yeah, for sure. But before we totally buy into everything she's saying,
Right.
it's good to think, are there other ways to look at this stuff? Could there even be downsides?
Yeah. Always good to be a little skeptical.
Exactly. Okay, so right off the bat, Lau has this really different take on, making money.
Okay.
She's like, forget chasing dollars right away. You got to build other kinds of capital first.
Interesting. What does she mean by that?
So she's talking about things like intellectual capital,
Oh.
like all that knowledge and those skills you build up.
Okay, makes sense.
And then there's social capital.
Yeah.
Your network, who you know.
The classic, it's not what you know, but who you know.
Right. And then human capital.
Oh.
That's like your health, your energy, even your mindset.
I like that. She's basically saying build yourself up before you build your bank account.
Totally. It's like that whole, sharpen your axe before you chop down the tree kind of thing.
Yeah. You gotta have the right tools for the job.
Exactly. So she says stack up all these other capitals before you even think about going all in on the financial stuff.
Oh, okay. So it's more about like becoming valuable to the marketplace, right?
Yeah, like if you're bringing tons of skills and knowledge to the table, the money will follow.
Makes sense. She's all about that leverage, figuring out what kind of capital has the most power at different times.
I'm curious though. Let's say you're like a young artist trying to make, so under Lau's model, you'd spend years learning networking, maybe even doing free work to build up that social capital. All before even trying to make a profit. Doesn't that delay things a lot?
That's a good point. Lau's approach might not be the fastest route for everyone.
Right. Especially if you're going for a more traditional career,
Exactly. But for someone trying to break into a tough field or build something from scratch, like our artist friend, building their brand, her ideas are super useful.
Yeah.
It's all about playing the long game.
Okay, so you're saying it's not one size fits all.
Definitely not. But there's wisdom there for sure.
Now, this is where it gets kind of wild.
All right.
So Lau says, work hard, achieve your material goals, and then you'll discover they don't bring lasting happiness.
Wow. That's deep.
Right? She even quotes Naval Ravikant, saying, we have two lives. The second one starts when we realize we only have one.
So it's like she's saying chase all the stuff and then realize it's not what matters.
Yeah. Is that telling people to go live fast and die young?
Yeah.
Or is there something more to it?
I think there's definitely nuance there. It's like if you're just chasing material success without paying attention to your deeper needs for purpose and connection, you might end up feeling kind of empty, even with all the money in the world.
So it's like reaching the top of the mountain and realizing the view isn't what you expected.
Exactly. And Lau talks about how privilege plays into this. Reaching financial freedom allowed her to step back and see that fulfillment comes from pursuing passions that really resonate with her, not just accumulating stuff.
Okay, so maybe it's more about the journey than the destination.
Totally. It's about discovering what truly matters to you. And sometimes you need to experience certain things firsthand to really understand their limitations.
All right. Moving on to something else Lau talks about that I found really interesting, projections.
Projections?
Yeah. So she's talking about how people project their own beliefs and experiences onto others.
Like they're putting their own filters on the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that shapes how they see and judge everything.
I can see how that would be a big deal for someone like her, being a YouTuber and all that.
Oh, yeah. She had to learn to handle criticism and not let those external opinions define her self-worth.
That's a good lesson for all of us, though, right?
Totally. Especially these days when we're constantly bombarded with opinions and projections online.
You've got to have those critical thinking skills, and set some healthy boundaries.
And Lau takes it even further. She says, we need to stop idolizing people or things.
Oh, yeah. That's huge.
Because when you put someone on a pedestal, you're setting yourself up for unrealistic expectations and comparisons.
It's so easy to fall into that trap, though, isn't it?
Absolutely. You start thinking everyone else has it all figured out while you're the only one struggling.
And then you start doubting yourself, undervaluing your own accomplishments.
It's like comparing our behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel.
Exactly. But how do we manage that tendency,
That's the million-dollar question.
Well, I think awareness is key. Notice when you're projecting your own insecurities or desires onto others. Then you can challenge those assumptions. Remind yourself that everyone's journey is unique. Comparison rarely leads to anything good.
So focus on your own growth.
Yeah.
Celebrate your own progress.
Exactly. Even the small wins.
Now, Lao isn't just about philosophizing. She's all about taking action.
Oh, yeah. She walks the walk.
For sure. She's like, do things while you're still excited about them. And she's got the receipts. She quit her corporate job, started her YouTube channel, and later even burned down her business when it no longer aligned with her values.
Wow, she's not messing around.
Nope. But that brings up a good question. How do you balance calculated risk with just being impulsive?
Right. It's a fine line.
She uses this analogy of fresh food. Like, if you
Really?
let an idea sit for too long, it loses its appeal and you miss opportunities.
So overthinking can actually be paralyzing.
But on the other hand, you don't want people just jumping into every shiny new thing without thinking things through.
Of course not. It's about finding that balance between making informed decisions and seizing the moment.
So how do we do that?
Maybe a good framework is to assess the potential consequences. Like, what's the worst that could happen if you go for it?
Okay.
Are you willing to accept those risks? If so, then go for it. But if the downside is too great, then maybe be a bit more cautious.
It's like a calculated gamble.
I gotta weigh the odds.
This seems to be a theme with Lao. She's not afraid to challenge conventional wisdom and encourage a little risk-taking. And her next point is no exception. She's a big advocate for going deep in your chosen field rather than spreading yourself too thin.
Interesting. That goes against the whole hustle culture narrative where everyone's supposed to be diversifying, you know?
Right. But Lau argues that becoming an expert allows you to become truly exceptional.
Like a master of your craft.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she uses her own passion for video making as a prime example. She loved it even back in high school, and that dedication ultimately led to her YouTube success. It's like she found her zone of genius and just went all in.
So find your passion and become the best at it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But how does our listener actually do that? Figure out and develop their A++ player skills.
I think it starts with some honest self-reflection. What are you naturally drawn to? What activities make you lose track of time?
Okay.
Where do you get positive feedback and recognition? Once you've identified those strengths and passions, then you can invest time and effort into developing them. Seek out mentors, courses, or communities that can help you level up.
Now, this is something that really resonated with me, that Lyle talks about embracing that lost phase, that period in your 20s when you're figuring things out, questioning your path, and feeling a bit uncertain about the future.
We've all been there.
Right. But she says instead of seeing it as a negative, we should view it as a chance for growth and self-discovery.
It's a powerful reframe.
It is. Our 20s are often a time of major transitions. Our values and goals shift as we gain new experiences and learn more about ourselves.
And feeling lost is a natural part of that process. It's like shedding old skins and growing new ones.
And shedding can be messy and uncomfortable, but ultimately it's a sign of growth.
Exactly. So be patient and compassionate with yourself during this time. Embrace the uncertainty and see it as an opportunity to explore and discover what truly matters to you. It's about learning to trust the process.
Speaking of discoveries, Lau shares a regret that might surprise some people. She wishes she had understood politics better when she was younger, because now she realizes how much it impacts our choices and freedoms.
You know, it's a great reminder that even topics that seem dry or irrelevant at first can have a huge impact on our lives.
Totally.
Understanding how political decisions affect things like healthcare, education, and the economy empowers you to make informed choices and stand up for what you believe in.
I can see how some people might be like, politics, ugh, that's so divisive and stressful, why bother?
Yeah, I get that. It can feel overwhelming and frustrating, but ignoring it doesn't make it go away.
So what do you suggest?
It's about finding a level of engagement that feels right for you. Maybe start by staying informed about local issues that directly affect your community. Or get involved in political campaigns or advocacy groups that align with your values. It's about taking ownership of your role in shaping the world around you.
Okay, we're about halfway through Lau's wisdom nuggets. And she's not letting up on the thought-provoking insights. She gets pretty candid about how her values changed drastically throughout her 20s, which led her to make a radical decision. She burned down her multi-million-dollar business to align her life with her new priorities.
That's a huge statement. It really shows how important self-awareness is. And having the courage to live in alignment with your truth, even if it means walking away from something that was once successful.
But how do we know when it's time to make such a drastic change? Not everyone can just burn down their business or quit their job on a whim, right?
I mean, it's not like she's saying everyone should go burn down their business, you know?
Right.
It's more about recognizing when things just aren't lining up anymore, like your inner world and your outer reality.
When they're totally out of sync.
Exactly. Lau talked about feeling unhappy and disconnected, even though on paper she'd achieved all these goals.
So it's not always about external success.
Not always. You got to pay attention to those internal signals, you know?
Like what kinds of signals?
Are you feeling unfulfilled, restless, maybe even resentful? Do your actions clash with your values? If so, it might be time to reassess things.
Okay, so you're not saying everyone should make these huge life changes.
Not necessarily. Sometimes it's about smaller shifts, you know? Your priorities, your work, your relationships.
Little tweaks to get things back in alignment.
Exactly. It's a constant balancing act.
It's interesting how Lau talks about those value shifts. Like she felt confused, ashamed, even anxious while figuring things out.
Makes her seem more human, right?
Definitely. It's reassuring to hear someone so successful admit to those feelings.
It's all part of the process. Personal growth can be messy and uncomfortable.
So what do you do when you're in that messy phase?
Self-compassion is key.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one these days.
Yeah.
But how do you actually do that?
Where you got to acknowledge your feelings without judging them.
So no beating yourself up.
Exactly. It's okay to feel confused and lost. Don't make it worse by getting down on yourself.
It's like being your own best friend.
That's a great way to put it. We're all works in progress. There's no finish line.
Lau also talks about something else that I think a lot of people struggle with as they start focusing on personal development.
What's that?
It's like that temptation to ditch your friends who aren't on the same path.
Yeah. You think you're better than them because you're working on yourself.
Exactly. It's easy to get that superiority complex.
Lau stresses the importance of lifting others up, though not putting them down.
So how do you do that? Especially if your friends aren't receptive.
Boundaries are key. Offer support and encouragement, but don't force your beliefs on anyone.
Respect where they are.
Exactly. It's their journey, you know?
Right, back to that no comparisons thing.
Exactly. Now, something else Lau brought up that's often overlooked is family history, connecting with older generations.
Oh, yeah. She talked about regretting not asking her grandmother more questions before she passed.
It's a good reminder. Our elders hold so much wisdom and perspective.
It's like a living library. And sadly, those libraries are disappearing.
We need to tap into that knowledge while we still can.
So what can our listeners do?
Simple things. Schedule a call with a grandparent. Invite a mentor out for coffee. Or just write down questions for someone you admire.
Make the time.
Exactly. Don't let those opportunities slip away.
It's about recognizing the value of those intergenerational connections.
They can really enrich our lives, you know.
Definitely. Okay, so we've talked about a lot today. Vanessa Lau's insights on everything from personal growth to entrepreneurship to even politics. But there's one theme that ties it all together.
What's that?
Taking ownership of your life.
Oh, yeah. Whether it's building skills, defining values, or understanding the forces that shape the world.
It's about empowering yourself to create a life you love.
And that's something everyone can strive for. It really is a powerful message, you know?
It is. And she really drives it home. Like she's not afraid to challenge the norm.
Yeah.
You know, encourage people to take risks.
Yeah. And to actually live by those beliefs.
Exactly. It's all about aligning your actions with what you believe in. And that's something you can work on at any age.
It's a constant evolution.
Totally.
Yeah.
So before we wrap this up, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
All right. Hit us with it.
Okay, so if you could go back in time and give your 20-year-old self one piece of advice based on everything we talked about today, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one.
And even more importantly, what can you do today to put that wisdom into action?
Doesn't matter how old you are.
Right, because it's never too late to learn and grow.
Exactly. We all have regrets, you know? But it's about using those lessons to shape a better future.
I love that. All right, so that wraps up our deep dive into Vanessa Lau's advice. We covered a lot of ground, you know, her unique perspective on building wealth, her emphasis on embracing those risks and changes.
And all those insights on personal growth, relationships, even the whole politics thing.
It's been a really interesting look at how we define success. Yeah.
And how to create a life that feels authentic.
Exactly. So we hope this got you thinking about your own path.
And maybe inspired you to take some action.
Definitely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And be sure to let us know what resonated with you most. Share your thoughts and takeaways on social media. And until next time, keep diving deep, keep learning.